Well, there you go, and I'll tell you what is popping up on our streets. Have you seen this? I think I can bring a picture up for you now, because we talk often, don't we, about the lack of police on the streets. We talk about the police stations that have been closing down. Well, look at this. This is kind of like... It reminds me a little bit, you know, when you go to supermarkets and you see those, like, pop-up key-cut places and stuff like that? Well, this is like a miniature pop-up police station now. Look at it. It's apparently in Crawley, I think it is, in Sussex, and it's about helping people feel that there is a presence in their local area. You can see the officer there proudly sitting inside of it. If I was sitting inside that, I would be absolutely terrified that someone pushed me over. You know, like when you go to a festival and you sit in the Portaloo. I never relax in a Portaloo in a festival because I'm always frightened that some joker will push me over backwards. But maybe, yeah, that says more about my mindset than it does those cop shops. What do you think to them?
Well, without thinking about Doctor Who, I mean, I think a number of things have happened, haven't they, right? We've seen a massive decrease in policing, which at the most senior levels, right? So there's been an attempt to recruit new people, which has come in. But also, even in the last year, we've seen over 4,000 people leave the force, many of them with decades of experience. We've also seen a situation where the implementation of measures and the way policing is done has been focused on some really problematic areas, like what people are tweeting about or what they're saying about certain things, whether it's trans or other controversial issues, rather than things like burglaries and assaults, serious things that the British public's very concerned about. So we've got a couple of issues that need to be addressed. I also think in the issue of knife crime, if we don't address the white elephant in the room, if we don't address this discussion about the war on drugs, abject failure, the fact that there are gangs that have got knives and the fact that there's a whole illicit black market trade from terrorists and others that make money from it, and that if you put it into the realms of the Treasury making money from it, you control it as illegal substances. We saw prohibitions never work. We saw that in America, where the mob was huge till they legalised it, alcohol again. Many nations have begun to explore with this thing. I think we need to have a serious conversation in Britain. If the public are not into it, fair enough, have it openly democratic. But that's one of the issues around policing. And I think that across the board we need to see a situation where there's not that much public support in some areas for policing, and we need to address that question as well.
Yeah, which I think is quite disgraceful, by the way, when you hear all these people saying they don't respect the police and all the rest of it. I think to myself, you know what, if someone was trying to murder you, I bet one of the first things you'd do is dial 999 and get those people that you do nothing but criticise and undermine and all the rest of it to come and try and help you. But anyway, Peter.
Yeah, I want to try and answer your question, which I'm not sure Alan did. I think there is a place...
Told you, Alan.
I think there is a place for small-scale, cheap innovation like the pop-up police stations, because they can provide reassurance and do things affordably. But in no way at all is it a compensation for something like 660 police stations that have been closed down since 2010. We have to realise these things are a consequence of austerity. And yes, you know, that can provide, the pop-up you showed in Crawley and Sussex can provide reassurance, and there is a positive to it, and it is probably quite affordable. But austerity has damaged British infrastructure to such an extent. The other one we talked about on this show about a month ago was Chris Philp, the policing minister, saying, oh, if you see shoplifting or someone doing something improper, try and carry out the arrest yourself if you can't get a policeman to attend.
Oh, yeah, the citizen's arrest.
Yeah, and citizen's arrest is abolition law, but the idea that we're so bereft as a British state that we do the policing and the arrests ourselves, putting ourselves in danger, is a bit of a nonsense.
Well, I will say one thing about that, though. I mean, like those brave citizens that stood up to the nihilist terrorists on London Bridge and elsewhere, those brave people that fought them, I was proud of that. And I get your point, and there should be provision. But at the end of the day, I'm not so concerned and worried about the idea of decent citizens standing up together. In fact, I actually quite like the idea of a kind of society where the public hold the line and say, don't do that to the children and other people, support one another and demand a kind of cultural backdrop of decent behaviour, social behaviour, unlike the situation we've got now. So I wouldn't poo-poo it as much.
I'm not poo-pooing it briefly. I'm talking about ordinary folk who haven't been trained putting themselves in harm's way.
I asked, if you want to know anything in this world, ask a taxi driver. And I asked a taxi driver today who happened randomly to be a former police officer. I was asking him about these pop-up police things, and he said to me there is a difference between a police station and a police office. And I said, is there? And he said, absolutely. And he said, and what they're trying to do is replace the police stations with these police offices. And I thought that was really interesting. And actually, I think one of the biggest, if you was to trace back and look at the root causes of some of the problems in society, it is the removal of those police stations, isn't it? I want to know what you think to that. I'm always interested as well to hear from a police officer. Would you even feel safe sitting there, potentially on your lonesome in that little porter cabin thing? And would you feel perhaps more reassured as a resident if one of those things did pop up on your local high street? Is it the answer to fix crime? You get in touch.